there's another oil field called the Front oil field that is also it's a subsidiary of Chevron. And most of these big boys have really small mom and pop operations, and that's how they're able to skirt the legislation and some of the laws regarding their pumping and their practices.
So they hire smaller, like I just saw an oil field back there that was owned by someone else.
Well,
I'm sure it leases to Chevron, so that Chevron that's not under their review.
Exactly. And we're going to the Coahuila Water District. It's called a polishing pond, and that's where the pipe from Chevron comes to dump its waste, and their trucks also bring it.
Wow.
So you've got two different ways that it's coming in. What they do with that water is allegedly clean it, they process it, and they clean it by running it through almond and walnut shells.
Whoa.
Yeah, that gets it clean.
That's pretty wild that even
There is more money to be made using the shells than the actual nut.
Wow.
So here we have this other backside, and you can see that the pump jacks are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Those are from the 60s.
Hello, my name is Juan Flores, and I'm a resident of Delano, here in Kern County. And I'm calling to oppose the oil and gas ordinance. For decades, in Kern County, low-income communities and communities of color have suffered from the disproportionate impact of environmental injustices. High numbers of cancer, diabetes, asthma, and other chronic diseases that are exacerbated by poor choices that our county officials make. With only one environmental impact report, they're trying to excuse more than 40,000 new oil wells. That is double the number of our wells that we currently have. Current oil wells that took over a period of 100 years. Now, as Ms. Oviar mentioned, we're going to double the number in just 15 years. That's simply crazy.
So there's 3 different tanks there, and that's where they process the water. And this is the water that's used for irrigation, and it's cheaper than groundwater. So that's the whole point, that the industry likes to say that we're actually making water, we're creating water. Well, they're taking dirty water and pressing it into nuts and then calling that clean.
Chevron has been a huge part of Kern County for a number of years, but recent press has brought into question just how clean the water is that they're selling back to farmers. We went inside their facility to find out.
This mixture of oil and water that's pumped from underground is what oil looks like before the water is separated to create this molasses-like substance. At Chevron's Kern River field, the 5th largest oil field in the country, thousands of barrels of oil are pumped each day. But these days, it's the water that grabs the attention. More than 750,000 gallons pumped each day. Chevron jokes they deal more in water than they do in oil. We got a tour through Chevron's maze of steel, rigs, and tanks to see their process. The water is first separated from the oil here, then goes through a walnut purifying system that cleans the oily water.
Water quality from Kern River Formation allows this to happen with very minimal treatment.
The water then runs north through an 8-mile pipe and is sold to the Coahuila Water District, a deal that has been going on since 1994.
It ends up being about a third of our water supply on a normal year. This year, it's about half.
Almost 100% of the water goes to farmers in the area, and while they're not concerned about the cleaning process Chevron uses, on April 1st, the Central Valley Water Board was.
So this pump jack that's right here, right in front of us there, that one was also leaking. So together, the people were getting very sick, and the wind blows in that direction, right into the apartments. So we came out and we did some investigating and set up some monitoring to be able to prove that that needed to be shut down. En medio del,
Well, it
sí,
took 3 years to shut it
de
down,
aquí, pues.
and a lot of film, a lot of footage, but they put the lip back on it, they sealed it, now it's closed all the way around, and we have air monitors at a house that's right across the way from there. We'll see it on our way out. But I just want to show you, this is how the industry hides things right in front of us.
Put a fence around it.
Yeah, don't go in. You don't even know it's there. Yeah, I know. You pass right by it. So vamos a platicar un ratito sobre eso cuando estamos más cerca del río. Porque cuando el agua viene de las montañas, no tienen los pesticidas, no tienen químicos. Es agua pura. Pero dentro de 5 millas de entrar en este lugar, tiene pollution, tiene cosas que se afecta a uno, tiene mucho arsenic.
Arsenic.
Ajá. Tienen otros gases and metals que se afecta el corazón, se afecta todo tu cuerpo. Right across the street from Grimway, you have tanks.
Tanks and
And
pumps.
you see the tank in the middle and the far end?
Yep.
Those are abandoned. But when you look at the tanks through the infrared camera, you see that it's half full of liquid and chemicals. And it's still venting. You see those pipes that are up at the top, the very top?
Yeah.
It's going into the air.
You can't see it.
You can't see it, and that's the purpose of these eco tours, to bring you around, to show you what the possibility is.
There's a school right there.
They're pointing out all the pumps that they see.
Cuando yo vino de Pasadena, Pasadena fue mi lugar, mi barrio, y estuve aquí 10 años. Mi salud fue bien, no tenía ningún problema. Dentro de 4 años de trabajar aquí, empezó cáncer del pecho. Y ya estoy bien de eso, pero mis huesos están afectados por todos los químicos. Entonces, siempre estoy quebrando un hueso o el otro. Y es porque la exposición de todo este mugrero que no sabemos qué está en el aire.
Yeah.
So it's very dangerous. We don't know and they don't tell us. And we pay with our bodies.
Yeah.
But this is, when we came here with mural arts, they're like, people are walking here.
Yeah.
And I said, but this is kind of a good symbol. It's very symbolic of people's lives here, right? Like they're living here and going about their lives in spite of and in the midst of all of the extraction that's happened,
It's called hiding in plain sight.
Yeah. So,
It's-
because if people talk here, they don't bother really looking what really goes on.
And this is where our work comes in. We want people to stop and to pay attention and to take a look around where they live, where they play, where they go out to eat, and look at all the dangers. See over there, those buildings?
Yep.
That's a steam plant. So all of this is steam generated. All of the waste product from here gets pumped over to the Coahuila Water District. The water district sells that water to big industrial farms. And the big industrial farmers are using produced water to grow your food. And we're eating it. And there isn't any proof that that is safe. And the industry has its own people that are doing the testing. So what we know about the kind of water that we are using to feed our cattle and what happens to them, and we say we're going to cut back on eating animals, so we start eating more vegetables. And when
So contaminated water with the vegetables.
We come out from one bad thing to another bad thing.
But we have to be aware of
Aware
it,
of what
and
we're
we
eating.
need to be able to say, look, I don't want my food being grown with produced water. There's no reason for it. If we didn't have these companies here taking the groundwater to do these explorations to pollute, then we would have better quality. But until people start to see that this is in their own backyard, look at, there's houses right across the street. And they think, oh, look at how beautiful, look at the lights.
Because we didn't know. Well, I didn't know about this, you know?
Oh, yeah.
The pollution and contamination that is so present for people living in Kern is, it should, you know, it's about producing energy and producing food. And it's doing it in, it's about doing it in really toxic and terrible ways, but it's energy and food that everybody benefits from. And so everybody should be concerned about it and upset and infuriated by it.
If I would have a magic wand that I could move around and say, Trun, this is happening tomorrow, I think I will see a lot of our community members having access to land, and those that have love and respect for our Mother Earth, tending the earth in the way it should be. That would not only give us, good and nutritious and culturally relevant food, but it will also give us resolve so many of the environmental problems that we have, the water, contaminated air pollution from the pesticides, from everything else. So I think that we will be able to thrive in so many ways. Our environment will be cleaner, our people will be healthier and happier.
At the moment, my dream is so conditioned by the years of the pandemic that we lived through, and living through wildfires at the same time as the pandemic, and seeing how clearly the wheels of capitalism just kept turning, and there was no space in there for people to take the time that they needed and get the basic needs met that they needed. And I think from that, my big dream for us together is that we rework our ways of being so that we are not required to always be in those gears, caught up. And maybe that seems small, but I think to get there, what's required is to actually restructure our economy. And by economy, I mean actually the ways that we get the resources, the food, the shelter that we need. I think like a fundamental restructuring of how we make that happen is something I dream a lot about. And how do we do that together so that we're not reliant on the state or on these large corporations to do that for us, but that we can actually do it together in kind of community networks.
Yeah, so like the different colors, the different colors are supposed to be like meaning different air qualities. Yeah.
What's the first color?
Green. How many were passing out of each? You got a red?
Yeah.
So purple, what is this?
Purple, they're giving
This
it
is
to
purple? Yeah, purple for the mujeres de adelante. So we can start out of green again? Okay, so that's like we get one color and the next person gets the other.
They're actually already in their colors: green, yellow, orange, red, purple. So green first.
Sí, una fila aquí, por favor, con su pares or a line here. That way we can make it the passing out process a lot easier. Sí, si se pueden empezar aquí. Muchas gracias.
Communities of color during times of trauma, the way that we heal is we come together through music and dance and spoken word poetry, and just holding each other. So I feel like we've done that here today. And if you look at the line that the class had made, it's this. We actually have a lot that weren't used today, but we created this story cloth to show people what the distance between your homes or schools or community should be with the oil within an oil or gas well. So you see, it's pretty far. And so keep that in mind because we want to make sure that we create awareness around the safe back distance. Honor the land, honor each other, and honor yourselves because your lives are sacred. Thank you so much. And this color was made with madder root. Madder root? It's really, really pretty. It's air purified? Pink, yeah. It'll filter the air.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
If you have time, that would be great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
So in terms of the longer term vision for solutions in the San Joaquin Valley, again, I feel like this is really at the heart of the work that CVAC is doing right now and trying to craft a holistic vision for the types of investments and community development that we know that our region needs. So in the long term, I think it's about continuing to co-power solutions for frontline community members to be empowered to speak to their truth, right? Again, to the issues that they're confronting, the concerns that they have, and also the things that they want, need, and deserve in their communities from the grassroots up. And in fact, I was speaking with a colleague the other day who was sharing some listening sessions that they did recently that a lot of community members were expressing a lot of concern over their safety for being outspoken on environmental issues, that they were really concerned that they're going to be targeted.
Oh, I know that one. I know that firsthand.
Yeah, so for me, it's always kind of coupling the transformative vision that we want to get to while also being really realistic about the fact that we're working on issues that are very politically charged and the power dynamics are very much against us. So how do we mindfully build the capacity over time so that we're not putting people at risk, we're not making the situation worse, but we're actually improving. And for me, starting at the grassroots means that you're tapping into those existing, like really powerful networks that already exist at the community level and figuring out how to build up, protect, and sustain those into a collective regional movement so that the vast resources of big ag, big oil, and the developers really can't be any match for our people power. And again, I think we are on that path. And I think that's the path that we're going to need to continue to go down if we're going to be able to save the people and the built environment of the San Joaquin Valley.
But rather than give my own opinion about this measure, I just wanted to start with a statement. I know we've been invoking the people of Ecuador. I received the packet, the information packet from my colleague from Bakersfield, the printouts of indigenous people by oil spills and the oil industry, the California oil industry's sudden affection and concern for the Amazon. So I reached out to the first female chief of the Waorani people of Pastaza in the Amazonian region of Ecuador. Monte Nenquimo is recognized by the UN, by the Goldman Prize, and basically put her life on the line leading the indigenous people of the Amazon against Chevron in Ecuador. So I sent my colleague from Bakersfield's fact sheets over to her and asked for her view. If you're going to be speaking on someone else's behalf, it's usually better to hear it from the person themselves. Chief Nenquimo responded, "I am appalled but not surprised to see that the oil industry is wielding its half-century toxic legacy in the rainforests of the Ecuadorian Amazon, my people's home, in order to block legislation in California that will ensure that frontline families and communities in California are protected from the environmental and human health impacts of oil drilling. The message that the oil industry is sending is simple. If you protect Black and brown families in California from our toxic practices, then we will just go and pollute the indigenous peoples of the Amazon. As an indigenous woman and leader from the front lines of the Amazon rainforest, my message back to the oil industry is simple. Your time is coming to an end. We will not let you pillage our lands and poison our people for profit, and we will not let you get away with your lies any longer. The stakes are too high. The climate crisis is real, and our Mother Earth matters. I've also received messages from Porter Ranch, who our colleagues like to speak on my community's behalf, but I thought you might also want to hear from them. The bill that I wrote for Senator Pavley when I was here, his staff, requires the gas industry in California to far exceed the standards set forth in this measure. Their leakage reduction plans that are currently required under CalGEM's oversight as well as at the Air Board are in fact the model that this bill uses for regulating existing wells. So the gas industry's regulations, which have been imposed since that leak, are now finally going to apply to oil. Finally going to apply to oil. Because if it's good enough to protect the people of Porter Ranch, then everyone else in Long Beach, in Monterey, in Santa Barbara, in the Central Valley should be entitled to those protections too. It shouldn't just be our community in the San Fernando Valley. And so I will just say, justice is indivisible. And to invoke these burdened communities to me is profane. So I hope you'll hear the true voices from the ground and move this measure forward.
Ayes 25, noes 10, the measure passes.